YouTube. Yes, I am doing a try stream again today. Just trying to get these messages out to folks. I don't know if here we go. I'm connecting. Give me a second. I'm connecting to okay. So yeah, I'm somewhere on here. Okay. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok and hi everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad to be here today, this morning, or this afternoon. I swear to God, time is definitely flying. TikTok and Instagram for folks joining, TikTok especially. I am streaming through Restream, and I have TikTok, you guys over here on the side. Not that you are a side and peripheral to any of this, but I cannot stream to TikTok via through Restream. I have to be gaming, and I'm not gaming, so I do my phone here. So I'm looking at my screen here. So forgive me if I am not paying attention to everybody. I'm here. Hi, everybody that's joining. If you're on Facebook, excuse me, if you were on Instagram, thank you for joining too. Anybody on YouTube? I'm looking around to see what's happening here. And am I on YouTube? I don't know what's happening here. Let me see. Give me a second to do this work here. All right. Something's happening. Why do I have two live streams? I don't know what's happening here. Anyway, for those of you on YouTube, this is calling the names. This is not the bloodline. We did that yesterday. I'm not sure what is happening with YouTube and Instagram. I am here with y'all. So today we're getting into the practice of ancestral memory, the Ka. The Ka. Why does it have two live streams on here? This is like very interesting. I don't know what's going on, but you know what? The divine intelligence knows what's happening here. So I just give all of this over to divinity. It is what it is, and I'm here to give a message. TikTok, you know it's about gifts. I encourage you to, reach out and get me one of them little gifts there so I could become more aligned with the audience. And I'm not sure how they work, but the directions for TikTok is request gifts from the audience. So, all right. Love lights, y'all. Welcome all to the AKH Ascension series. Today we're getting into calling the names, practice the Ka. I am Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at, coming at you live today as I do most days in this Ascension series. And TikTok, I'm not inviting folks, any multiple hosts right now. I'm just doing a teaching, and I do have the chat open on the YouTube. So if indeed you would like to say something or give me some sort of notification that you're here, the chat is open. Hi, Sarah. I see you. I see folks over here on TikTok. Hi. I'm not sure what is happening on Instagram because I'm scared to even move what I have there. Hi. If you're here and you're with me wherever you are, please write in the comments in all caps KA for call Ka. Right in the chat comments Ka. So let's get into it. This is the calling the names, okay? Sitting at the altar, although you don't really need one, but sitting at the altar with your ancestors, gate of Ka, and we are on the Ka, one of the 9 bodies of light. So welcome back for everybody who's coming back. For those of you here the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the 3rd day of our week together, and I have been waiting for this one. This is one of my favorites, and as you will see, I'll show you my space. I have a picture of my space, but I'm really excited about this. On Tuesday, we told the truth about the erasure of our memory in American society. That has been a 400-year war on your memory, a coordinated effort to erase your ancestors, my friends. And on Tuesday, we told the truth that answers it. They fail. They always are going to fail, because our ancestors, your ancestors, they don't survive in the museums or in the book. Our ancestors, your ancestors survive in us, in you, in the Ka, okay? The life force in your bloodline, all right? But I did make a promise yesterday, and I said that knowing the line is alive is one thing, but actually picking up the phone, and that's metaphorical, is another. And today I keep that promise. Today I teach an aspect of how to reach them, okay? An aspect on how to reach them. We can't get into everything in this live stream, but I'm going to give you an aspect from my particularly informed position on this, okay? I teach you the ritual or a ritual that has been used across the diaspora, and it integrates different strategies, hoodoo, African spirituality. I would say voodoo, but people are going to hang up and get scared. Ancestor veneration happens across the African diaspora, and particularly in America, where a lot of our background when it comes to this spirituality, for those of us who move in from the South, is hoodoo. I draw a lot of my tradition in this practice on that, as I was reared on that, and also from Native American traditions as well, because I know all Black people say I got Indian in me, and Indian is not really Native American, but I mean, it is true. Okay, I'm laughing with myself. What's up? Tell me something important, please. Okay, Marco. I'm going to try to get to something important. I hope all this is important. So I hope it resonates with you. Thank you for saying and reaching out. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. And thank you again for TikTok. And thank you again for Instagram. Those of you who may be here, I'm just the worst chat monitor. Oh, I see you now. I'm going to put you on the stream. Oh, I got you on the stream. Yeah, TikTok, tell them to get rid of that gaming mandate so I could stream from Restream so you can see everything that everybody is seeing. Hi, y'all. Don't forget the gifts. So, as I was saying, I talked about the traditions I come through, and particularly as it relates to Kim Metaphysics, Melanin Metaphysics. This is where I situate myself in this work, okay? And so the calling of names, it's like, it's timeless. There is no begin date of this practice. No begin date. It's been around for as long as we have existed, my friends. And before I teach you a single step or idea, first I want to give you the frame, right? About the practice I'm sharing today. First, this teaching is not going into specific rituals to cleanse the space and energy. It's not going to go into communicating with your ancestors with a specific intent, right? And I'm not going to address all of the obstacles that interfere in building a relationship with your ancestors, because as I have said, this is no like I need you now and do what I need you to do, or I can't hear my ancestors. No, You have to build a relationship, and there are obstacles in building that relationship. Just like in building a relationship with, a new friend. So I'm not going to get into all the obstacles. This depth, what I said about specific rituals, cleansing, communicating with intent, resolving the obstacles. This is more in-depth teaching that's accessible in the temple, which is the community, which I will speak on more in a bit. Today's framing, though, is demystification, okay, veneration, and self-love. All right. You may think of ancestor work as a duty, my friends, or as something airy, or something for other people. It is none of those things. Okay. It is none of those things. To call to your ancestors to build, and again, I will constantly reaffirm the idea to build a relationship with the ones you came from is one of the deepest acts of self-love, my friends, there is. And I'm like, and calling your ancestors in self-love, yes. And we'll talk more about why that is a deep act of self-love. Because you cannot truly love yourself, right? While turning your back on where you came from, right? Like I talked about yesterday, I think, some folks in my comments are, hi, Carolyn, how are you? Thank you for joining us today. I sincerely appreciate you. I hope you stay. People tend to just want to cut off any connection with anything other than what's happening here in America, or the United States of Americans, which is fine, right? People do what they have to do. I always say I have a trauma-informed approach. I accept everyone where they are. And believe me, my friends, that approach has definitely diminished the conflict I have with others in my reality. Okay. Just a strategy for you guys, learn how to practice it, sit in it, and you will be better for applying a trauma-informed approach to all your relationships. I'll tell you that much. But when you can turn and see and look and celebrate where you came from, even if it's just like, I don't know exactly, but I feel a pull, that is self-love. When you communicate that love in that direction, send that energy, that vibration in connectivity, okay? And to turn your love and to turn toward your lineage with respect and remembrance, is already to turn toward yourself in love, right? So it's not airy or scary or a duty. That's a demystification. It is veneration, because you are turning toward your lineage with respect and remembrance. And it is an act of self-love, because you're not turning your back or starting at a new point, right? In your life, you are celebrating, remembering, and connecting and building relationship with where you came from. Okay? And so, look, this is not a chore. It should not be a chore. And if it feels like a chore, you stop. I don't tell anybody to keep doing something that feels like a chore, because my intuitive spiritual approach is, if it feels like a chore, after you have tried a few times or for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it still feels onerous, however you would like to pronounce that word, maybe the technique or the strategy being employed is not one that resonates with your being. And there's nothing wrong with that. That means there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your intuition telling you, we need to adjust this to fit more in frequency with who and what you are and how you situate yourself in this life force, this universal cosmic life force. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And so this is you. This is me coming home to your own. In the body, the cot. Remember, we talked about the cot last week, the body they fear, but that we sit in power due to Kim. and coming home to your own in the Ka, your bloodline, your ancestral memory. Yes, and again, my name is Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at, and today we learn a strategy, and I say a, not the strategy, a strategy to calling names, okay? Um, Let me just give some love to these people in the chat over here. TikTok, thank you. Will you do forecasting? If you'd like me to do forecasting, I definitely can do forecasting, Carolyn, if you're still here. Okay. So I will keep that in mind and I will do a live stream on forecasting. Okay. Thank you for mentioning that, Carol. I really appreciate you for sharing. So stay tuned. I'll do it just for you, Carolyn. Hey, TikTok. Hi, Instagram. I hope y'all still there. I'm juggling a lot over here. So let me tell you what calling names can be understood as. You know, as an academic, I cannot lay claim to all knowledge because I do not have all knowledge. As much as I would like to believe I have all knowledge, I have it. It's here. But it may not necessarily be active within my consciousness, my present brain in this moment, right? So calling names, device overheating, view. So it says my phone is overheating. Just stay there, don't move. TikTok, all right? So calling names, is an ancient African practice, and there are other cultures that are not African specific that practice calling names. So for me in this stream and what I do with Melanin Metaphysics, I'm situating it in Africa as an ancient African practice of calling on your ancestors for their presence, for their guidance, their protection, by speaking to and with them out loud. And I want you to underline that, my friends, because it is at the heart of everything I'm talking about this week. In the African traditional way, you do not call your ancestors with silent, folded hands, eyes in prayer, you know, although that can work, right? That works. Right? But in usually in this tradition, you call them with your voice, with your tongue, with your mouth. You speak it out because people understood something the modern world tends to forget, that there is power in the spoken word. And what does the Bible say? God spoke the earth into existence. That may necessarily be it, but you know, our words have creative power. So, and I've talked about language many a times in these streams. And that power has a name, okay? So in Yoruba tradition, it's called Ase or Ashe, how some people say this word. If you want to, write it in the comments, in the chat. Ase, you can't put all the accents on it, but A-S-E. Say it in your mind. Ase, Ashe. Pick how you would like to say the word. Now, let me tell you what Ase or Ashe is. I'm going to say Ashe, because once you understand it, you will understand why this whole practice is spoken and not silent. And I always think it's important to give insight into exactly why we are doing these practices the way that we do them. As I was a young child and had these rituals and practices just given to me, it was like air. It just was. This is what we do. It was never really explained. And so as I've gotten older in these rituals and traditions, and in my whole academic sort of nature as a professor, I'd like to get into what are the mechanisms here? I think it's important for all of us to have some background. So Ashe is, for those of you who are not familiar with this, the vital life force. that runs through all things, sort of like what people call the universal life force. Ashe is the vital force that runs through all things. But more than that, Ashe is the power that makes a word come to pass. Okay? It is the divine authority to turn what you say into what is. Ashe. The supreme carries Ashe. The source, the divine intelligence carries Ashe. Ancestors carry Ashe. Our elders carry Ashe. And you carry it on your tongue, in your breath. So when you speak with Ashe, your word is not merely describing something, my friends. No, your word is doing something. And that is why we have to be so careful about what we say. Right? When you speak Ashe, your word is not merely describing something. Your word is doing something. It is reaching across distances between worlds and making the call real. That is why when a prayer is finished, we can seal it by saying Ashe, the way others say Amen, because it means, and so it is, let it be so. And it's so interesting. In my metaphysical studies, we do treatments called like prayers, they're called treatments. And at the end of our treatments, you say, let it be so, and so it is. It's interesting how that was flipped on its head and not given the real credit that it deserves as an African ontology and episteme from which these practices draw. I don't even think they know what they draw on. And so it is, let it be so. This is Ashe. So do you understand now why we do not do this quietly, my friends, or in our heads? Right? Because the tongue is the instrument. Your voice carries the Ashe, and it carries something else too, okay? It carries your family, the DNA in your voice, the energy that is uniquely yours, is a signal your ancestors recognize. When you speak their names out loud, they do not just hear your words, they hear your own blood calling. And that is also written into your metaphysics of Kim. It is in your Kim, which is ancient, timeless, connected, all. They hear it in your chemistry and they hear it in your blood. Now, let me give you the container this all lives inside, okay? Because I know we talked a lot about dark awake, but I want to be very precise about what this is. The container for calling names, or the sort of overarching sort of perspective here, is the black light. And I talk a lot about the black light in my book, The Power of Release. It's not a technique, the black light, because the black light is where you discover the power of your own melanin. The dark awake is where you sit in melanin, where you embed and synergize with melanin, right? The black light is where you discover the power of your own Kim. And I have taught you that Kim is the keeper of ancestral memory, as I've just shared. Okay? The Ka lives there in the deep richness of you. And I have to say, because I'm not sure where everybody's coming from today on the stream, everybody has melanin. I'm specific to Black folks because I know more about being Black than anything else. Second is, I know more about whiteness than anything else. So I situate my discussion, but I don't want anybody to feel ostracized, although I know my words can seem ostracizing. And I'm not going to apologize for that. It just is, right? And so think about what that means. If the Ka lives in Kim, when you call your ancestors, you are not shouting up or out to an empty sky or an empty infiniteness, hoping something out there hears you. No, you are calling into the black light, Kim light of your own being. Remember, come home to the temple. This is your sacred space. So you're calling into the black light of your own being, where your ancestors already live, encoded in your very chemistry. The ancestors are not only out there, my friends, they are in your temple. Okay. And if I want to get into the chakra energy placements in our body, if you are aligned with, chakra healing, we are talking about the sacral chakra, the very root, the pelvic area is where this energy sits itself. Okay. So the sacral chakra. All right. And so this is why the black light and Ubuntu, which I've talked about, are sort of like the same discovery. Ubuntu, of course, that word comes from Africa, means I am because we are, right? It is the truth that you are not solitary, my friends. You're not a separate self. Although American society, as I talked about yesterday, wants us to believe that we're all rugged individualists. That is a lie, okay? You're not a separate self, that your I is stitched out of the enormous we, right? Like you've been carved out and now you sit all alone as a I. And when the black light comes on, my friends, when you discover the power inside your own Kim, that is exactly what you'll see. And if you discover the power within, and everybody, if I'm using Kim for folks who may not be black, think about it as melanin, okay? Because everybody has melanin. Kim carries a different connotation, more of a spiritual connotation in regards to this metaphysical journey that we are on in the AKH Ascension. So when the black light, the Kim light comes on, when you discover the power inside your own Kim, that is exactly what you see. You see that you are carrying the whole we within you. The dark is where all life comes from. Remember, we start out in the womb as a speck of melanin, melanated probably carbon, right? It's black. It is pure Kim. Dark is where all life comes from. The black light is that whole collective we glowing inside of you. To honor your ancestors is to honor the Kim light, the black light, or the melanin light within you. And both every time are self-love, okay? Because the we you are loving is the very thing that makes the I that you are. And you might say, what the heck did Dr. Ma'at just say? Look, I think we all should start using the pronouns, all Kim peoples and anybody else who believes that their melanin is powerful, that may not be Kim. Somebody asks us what our pronouns are, you tell them we and are, because words have power. And as I talked about, I think of a post today, the English language is woefully inadequate for speaking the truth, period, full stop. Okay. All right. So let me give you the anatomy of a particular ritual that I am centering right here and now. And I want to say up front, this is not a strict, rigid formula. None of these are, particularly through my trauma-informed approach, as well as my belief that individuals create, craft, adapt, adopt these things to fit their own unique spiritual centeredness. So your ancestors are your family. Now, people will say, well, they're not my blood. I'm not going to get into, the blood and connection and African diaspora and where civilization started. You can say your ancestors are just your family, your relatives. Others speak ancestors just all the way through. Even if they don't know, they understand that somewhere on that Atlantic slave trade was somebody related to them. And if they're not related, just the mere fact that we are kin peoples makes them ancestors. So your ancestors could be your family and all the permutations I just shared, and nobody can tell you exactly how to be with your family or who your family is. Okay. So there are principles, there is protocol here, and there is a creative personal relationship that you build over time. One, they will guide you in because this is a relationship. So take these as bones and put your own flesh on them. Excuse me. First, like everything else, you get centered, okay? And this is stuff that we do in the temple. And before anything, you set your intention, meaning the calling of names. I'm calling on my ancestors now because I want to be with them. Now, there are cleansing rituals that go into this because you do not want to have ancestors come to you who are not benevolent. They could be malevolent. But that's a cleansing ritual that is something I teach in the temple. Okay. And some of you may already know cleansing rituals, the spirits that have no good intent for me do not enter this space. Others have more physical type of things that they do. But you want to be with them. You take some breaths, right? A few deep breaths because it gets you in place. It gets you centered. You can even close your eyes for a moment to connect in, through, and with Kim. Okay. Gather yourself and connect within. Okay. But hear me. When you actually do the calling, you open your eyes and you speak. This is an active, awake, out loud ritual. You come present, then you use your voice. Second, you make the call. You have two ways to call your ancestors in this particular strategy. You can make a general call. My honored, benevolent ancestors. See, the cleansing is not necessarily, it's not pre-call. You can do it in the call. But for me, in actual practice, you want to cleanse and make sure the spirit realm knows that you want all that is good, high vibration frequency that is there to care and uplift you. All right. But you make the call, my honored, benevolent ancestors, whatever terminology your voice resonates with. Okay. So I'm calling on you to come and be with me. And then you speak to them. All. You may not know all their names, but you speak to them. Or you can call to specific ones by names, the ones you know and love. I did try to find that Erykah Badu naming ritual that she did before her concert at New York Times. And I believe that was the one, but of course they got rid of that. They probably thought it was witchcraft. But I mean, the calling of names, if I'm going to call names in this ritual, I'm not going to speak to just one right now. I'm going to call on Aunt Betty, Aunt Sadie, Sissy, Aunt Pauline, Aunt Creta, Evelyn, Aunt Eva, Uncle Joe, Uncle Boy, Uncle Chambliss, right? Doesn't matter whether you mix, the matriarchal with the patriarchal. It doesn't matter. If you want to just stick with all one gender, you can. But you call the names, and sometimes you have a little bead in your hand. Like, I don't know if you see me. I have like these prayer beads or these Buddha beads that I put around my wrists, and I carry them with me mostly all the time. And I use them and rub them in my hands. Or you can use, excuse me, I'm going in my bra. I have a lapis lazuli, a crystal in my hand. Sissy, I'm Betty, Dorothy, Diddy, Janice, and I will rub it. Lapis lazuli is to connect with your ancestors. Okay, I will rub it. I will call the names. So you do not need to call one name. In this ritual, we are calling all the names of your ancestors that you have loved. And if you know them all the way back to 1807, then you call that out. Okay, so you speak the names. Now, here's one piece of protocol I do not want you to miss here. Whether you call generally, and that is like, I just call all my ancestors who are benevolent, right? Or by name, you always leave the door open, right? You add, and any of my benevolent ancestors who wish to come, you are welcome here. And I continue to rub my lapis lazuli. Yes. You can, sorry, I'm going to my bra for this stuff because this is where I keep them. You can also use the amethyst because the amethyst opens your intuition up. Okay. Amethyst or lapis lazuli. Yes, I put them in my bra because I do psychic reading all day long. That is my job. And so I wear these things on my body to continually keep me in contact with my ancestors and to keep my intuition open. Okay, so those are just two little ritual pieces that I utilize. Okay, and so let them know you're welcome here because you never want to close the door on help that is trying to reach you, right? You call the ones you know and you keep the invitation open to the ones that want to reach you, but you may not know the name. And if you don't want to open yourself up in that way, you speak to the ones that you love, and you might say, and to all the ones who I do not know, who were lost in, you could say, passing the Atlantic Ocean on the ships. You say a saying that honors what you know happened to your ancestors as they may have traveled here and been lost. And even the ones in slavery who were enslaved, who had their names changed, erased, who you don't know, you can call to them. But again, we have to be careful about who we call, okay? And that's why you tend to cleanse the space before you begin calling the names to ensure that there are only, I hate to use the word good, but only those spirits that can affirm, support, and lift you up benevolently, not malevolently, okay? I don't want to get all kind of weird. I just want to make sure nobody's opening the doors to some weird stuff here, okay? And so, and you notice, like I said, I keep using the words benevolent, honored. We call on the elated, the loving, the ones that are for us. That is essential, right? And third, and this may be a very powerful part, the threefold call. You know, I believe in three. Three makes things so it is, let it be so. Three is Ashe. Three is the universal number, right? So we could do a threefold call in the calling of names. You call the name 3 times. 3, like I said, is sacred all over the world, and especially in African spiritual practice. And so the 3 has helped me a great deal. When you call a name into the ancestral realm, which is full, it is not empty. They are busy being with the whole family. The first call is like being in a crowded room and thinking, wait, is somebody calling me? Oh my goodness. Sorry about this. I need to, give me a sec. Oh shoot. Give me a second here. I had a phone call. They're going to charge me $1 for missing that call. Give me a second. I got to get off Psychic Power now. Yeah. Ooh. I'm telling you where I'm working. I might get some more business. Give me a second here while I get off. because they charge you $1 for every missed call, which is a little nuts. Give me a second. I'm coming back to y'all. I got to get offline off of this. Here we go. Here we go. Give me a second. I don't know what's going on with this computer, but it's moving mighty slow. Okay, I'm almost there. Yeah, it takes this much to sign out, if you can believe this. It's like, yeah, I'm coming back TikTok. I'm coming back Instagram. Oh, my goodness, should do this a long time ago. See, got so excited about coming on here and forgot to go off. Where am I at? Okay, I'm back. Thank you for waiting. Sorry about that. Okay, so you can call in threes, all right? Because, you know, in the spirit realm, just like this says, you know, just like in a big room, if you come in and call my name one time, I may not hear you, right? So you may have to call my name a few times. So it's just like that in the spirit realm. And there are names for this spirit realm that I'm not going to share here and now. These are things that I share in the temple, okay? And with my one-on-one clients. And so, you know, let me go toward that voice. So 3 times, you know, you say it so they can hear you and come. You call the name once, twice, 3 times, and then you go quiet, you sit, you listen, and ideally you feel their presence arrive. Now that is a more advanced sort of calling of names, one that I'm not really leaning in toward right here and now. And that is mainly if you want to connect with one ancestor, a individual, and you want to bring them into your energy, okay? And there's also another practice of knocking on a book 3 times, all right? It could be the Bible. It could be a book affirmation book that you read. You bang on it 3 times, asking for your mother who's passed, somebody who's loved you, to give you a word, a message, and you open the book and the first page you fall on, that is your ancestor communicating with you. But this is not calling names. This is actually something a little different. You can also do it with oracle cards and tarot cards, right? You do the shuffle. And for many of us who work in this industry, we shuffle, we cut, and then we knock 3 times before we throw it out. On that 3 times, you call to the ancestor you want to give you some guidance, and you sit there for a minute awaiting. So Evelyn. And if you have an intent before you start shuffling the cards and cleansing and washing them off, you put the intent. I want to know, should I apply for this job? And then you're shuffling the cards. I want my Aunt Evelyn to let me know if I should apply for this job. You cut the cards, you pick them up, and then you say, Evelyn. And then you take the cards off to see what Evelyn is going to tell you. This is another way to call names if you have something you need to have addressed. And I'm not getting completely into this because as I framed the conversation earlier, I just really want to focus on just the calling of the names part, because that is more than enough for some people. Because just the idea of speaking to folks who have passed on can be scary. And maybe it's not so much about getting guidance from many people. It may just be about honoring, showing respect, and knowing that reflects a self-love to do this practice and to activate Kim in this way. Okay? And so, don't forget though, when you're doing ancestor worship, you know, and there's some other things in here I'm not going to get into because it's going to take us off the beaten path and make this a much longer live stream. But you want to remember when you are calling ancestors anywhere, you need to have libation. You can have water. You can have whiskey. Or any other drink, right? It's just a liquid. Liquid water is a spiritual conduit. Okay, whiskey is a spiritual conduit. For me, it's water or whiskey. So you pour the libation combined with your word and your intent. Okay, and you just do it when you are showing them honor and respect. Right? You can see this in some movies. People have got like a 40 ounce and then they pour some out to the spirits. They give them their honor and then they go do what they're going to do. That is similarly here. You pour some of that out so that it acts as a spiritual gateway between the realms. It refreshes the energy and it is itself a refreshment offered to your ancestors. Okay? You pour it from one cup into another vessel, and that could be from the cup into the earth, right? Okay. Some people pour it into the rug if it's water. Some people pour it on the floor. But the earth itself is a spiritual conduit as well. So with the dirt, some people do this at the graveyard. Now I'm really going to a whole nother level here, but I'm not taking you there, but and then you pour it on the grave. Okay. And you say your libation prayer. It could be, anything you want to say, I welcome into the space, those who have loved me, with all respect. I open myself up to hear your direction, your instruction, whatever you want to say with the libation. Be refreshed. Be refreshed. May this carry you. Anything that makes sense to you, right? And you don't have to do the 3-name call. You're just pouring it out and you're going to start honoring by calling names of your ancestors. The water is a doorway that brings them close. And if you're situated in a little bit of fear about this practice, don't use the water. This is baby step stuff here, okay? And I am talking about a lot of things because there's a lot of strings here. But I'm situating myself in the calling of the names, not calling of the names because you want to talk to them about something. Not here, not yet. That's what I'm not talking about this. This is activating your Kim, understanding that you are part of a great whole. Okay, feeling the power that the Kim provides in that connectivity. I am because we are. This is the gestalt of the calling of names that I'm talking about, particularly as it resonates with the Ka, ancestral memory. We have to wake it up. Okay. And the calling of names, the way that I'm presenting it, is a first step to waking it up. And then there's another level with a staff. I'm not going to get into that. You bang the staff on the ground. These things I talk about in the tempo. Okay. And that's vibration, vibratory, like the drum. Boom, 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 boom. The staff, when you call them, you bang the staff on the ground. Vibration. Energy. Okay, that's more advanced stuff. Right now, we're just trying to get ourselves together with speaking the names. Okay, so now I have to talk about something a little bit tender because I know that some of you, everything I just described may run straight into a wall. And that wall sounds like this. Dr. Ma'at, I will call the names, but I don't know the names. The line goes back and then it stops. I talked about this a little earlier. If that is you, and that's me too, hear me clearly. You still can do this. If I can do it, you can do it. The erasure did not lock you out of your own lineage. It just means we call a little differently. And the ancestors understand completely because they have lived through the very thing that took their names. So here is what you do. You call generally, right? And and you widen it all the way open with this. And this is just a way to say it. My honored, benevolent ancestors, all of you, known and unknown, named and unnamed, you who came before me and made a way for me to be here, I'm calling on you. I'm calling on the honored and benevolent yous. Okay? Come and be with me. You can call the ones you know first, even if it's only one, even if it's only your grandmama. You can call a felt presence, the one you have always sensed watching over you as part of this calling the names, even without a name. You just felt. You can call the unnamed ones directly with honor. 2, the ones whose names were stolen. I remember that you were, even though I cannot say who. Your blood reached me. I am your proof. Again, remember, this is an act of self-love to diminish the sensation that you are alone and isolated, as this society would love to make you feel. And let me take one more worry off of you, my friends, because people definitely ask me this all the time. It is completely fine, like I said, to mix divine masculine names with feminine names, right? You call your grandmother, your grandfather, all together, your uncles, your aunties, all together, and it's fine. You can stay with one line, only to call your mother's line, the matriarchal line, or only your father's line, right? It's okay. It's whatever you feel intuitively drawn to, right? And it's no like, oh, I don't know. You just start talking and let the names come out, and you will know. And there is no wrong way here, my friends. Okay? Call who are called, right. The line answers to love, right? Not paperwork. I wrote something down here I can't even read. So I feel the defiance in this. Look, they built that wall in the record on purpose, where we don't know our full lineage, right? Some people have been blessed to find everybody out in their line, where they came from, but many of us have not had that opportunity. So that, that's done. So you feel orphaned, so you feel separated, so you feel like you don't have anything. So I'm trying to say for seekers here that you just learned that you can reach around that wall entirely. You can call the ones whose names have been erased, and they still come. And that is the erasure failing in real time, in your own living room. To call the unnamed is to defeat the ones unnamed around them, right? And so I wanted to share with you my little practice that I do in everyday life. I don't know if TikTok can see this, if they can go to YouTube. I'm going to show you my practice. I want to share with you the way that I do this in my daily life every day, because I do not want you to think of this as some big formal ceremony you only do on special occasions. The truest ancestor work is daily. That's how you build the relationship. It is intimate, and it looks a lot like simply having a family member over. And even though TikTok can't see this, I'm putting this up on YouTube. This is my altar. I put my altar up on YouTube. You can scroll in the stream, but this is my altar. The doll in the back, people get freaked out about this. I call my hoodoo doll. It's got all of the obituaries from everybody that I've ever went to a funeral for that's in my family, who I love. Even those that I don't love are in here, right? This is my hoodoo doll. These are pictures of people who have gone on. As you can see, I placed them in the plant. This plant, as you see here, was there from like the beginning, and it looks wild because I believe that my ancestors have taken up residence in the plant. But as you can see, I have a lot of stuff. You see, I have a bottle of whiskey on there. I got a shot glass on this plate with this money that I put the liquor in. I have a cup for water. I put money here. I put stones and a lapis lazuli that means something to me. Right now, they have fruit on the altar. I have what I call leg bow crow. Okay. This is crow that operates between the living and the spiritual realms, right? I have my incense here, my candles that I would burn. And so this is my personal altar. I have a lot of crystals on here. All right. And anything on there that means anything to me, I got angel cards on here. I got a Symbolon card, which is a card you use in reading. I've got an old Southern bell that is racist as all get out, but I grew up with this in my house and I still have it from when I grew up. I've got trinkets of my mother on there. I got all kind of stuff. I got Oshu. I have Ma'at statues. I just put everything on this table. Okay, and it is by the window because I have it by the sun so that it can be energized with the heat and with the light of the sun. Okay, so that is my altar. And yes, many altars, I don't think there's any orderly altar. Altars look worn and used because it's something you do every day. Okay, so that's just a for instance of my altar. And let me just give you some of my practice, right? First of all, you don't need an altar to do any of this. Praying and calling names on your ancestors requires no altar at all. But an altar gives them a place, a space in your home. It gives them a place to go. So I keep one and I center it. Oh, did I go off somewhere? I keep one and I center it and I tend to it, right? And here is my daily ritual. I come down, I set food out for my ancestors. It could be a piece of fruit or a portion of my own meal. And I set out a drink for them. I offer whiskey or water every day. I light a candle every day because the candle is also a spiritual conduit, right? I burn incense to cleanse and to maintain the spiritual tone of the space. And then the part I love most, my friends, I sit down with my ancestors. It might be all of them some days, or I might just be chilling with one I've called to the fore. And I actually have a bite of the food that I've given them, right? So if I'm giving them some of my spaghetti and meat sauce in the evening, say, and look, people think I'm nuts, but you can give them spaghetti and meatballs. I will have my own plate. I will give them a little bit, and I have a bite of food. And I take a sip of the drink, whether it's water or it's whiskey with them. I'm not just leaving an offering and walking away. I am sitting down to share a meal with my people. And if I can't sit down in the morning, I will give fruit in the morning, and then I will give a meal in the evening when I can actually have a conversation, because you have to remember this is about building a relationship. Okay. And when I sit there with them, I talk to them about my day, what I'm struggling with. I share my vision, my goals, the things I'm reaching for. I ask them how they are. I just interact with them the way you would with family at the table. Like I said, sometimes all of them, and sometimes one specific ancestor I need to speak with that day. And I do it knowing, and TikTok, I may have to go off because my battery's really low. And where am I at? And I do it knowing, it's not hoping, it's not me believing in faith. I hope they're here. I know that they are right here with me, relating to me, present in it. I call them into my day. I name them into my life. And of course, somebody would say, oh, you're schizophrenic. You know, a lot of Kim people have these crazy diagnoses when in fact, it is just many times the fire in you seeking to be heard. We are more spiritual than not. Okay? And this is ordinary. This is not some holy sacred ritual. This is the relationship. It is not performed once a year, my friends, at Easter, right? It is standing, or when they pass, and after the repast, you grieve a bit and then you move on. No, it is standing daily at the table with the people who you love most, who have ever loved you and who are still loving you from the other side. It is what it means to build a relationship with your ancestors like you would a friend. You show up, you share a meal, you tell them your life, and little by little, the line that went quiet gets warm again. And you stop moving through this world as though you are alone, because you're not. And with these practices, you'll be able to feel it. And this, my friends, is the self-love I told you about at the beginning. Because when you set that table and pour that drink and sit down to talk to your own, you are declaring with your whole body and voice that you came from someone, that you belong to somebody, somebody's, and that you are worth sitting with. In a world that told us, our people, we came from nothing, keeping a daily table with your ancestors is one of the most loving, most defiant, most healing things you will ever do. All right? So make sure you get your Ka practice guide. All right? People want to know how to begin. I know I'm going to have to hang up from TikTok real quick, but I want to throw up the practice Ka guide. And for YouTube, for TikTok, it is on the website in power-profit.com community. Get the Ka Ancestral Life Force practice guide, and you can begin to work with your ancestors as far as writing down some things about them, your needs, and getting an inventory of names that you can call on. Please get your free on the community page. Scroll down the calendar and it's there. Okay. And it's called an ancestor registry inside. The registry is where you begin to write down in your hand the names, the stories, the gifts, the pieces of your lineage that you do know, and to keep adding as you learn more. Okay. And if you want to start with an altar today, start. Get a picture. If you got a candle, it could be a tea candle, whatever those things are, and a glass of water. Put it on something that you cleaned with salt water or Florida water or something that's refreshed. And that's your altar. It's not even that hard. All right. And then you speak the names. And so I want to share something with you before you leave. I am doing a full moon heart dedication on July 29th at 11 p.m. For those of you on Instagram. I know that TikTok can't see it, but it will be up. I'll put a post up about this. This is a full moon heart dedication, July 29th at 11 p.m. Eastern time. We are gathering as a community live on YouTube for the full moon heart dedication. And we are going to do together what you learned today to do alone. We're going to stand up and speak the names in unity and in vibratory power. We're going to move things. Can you imagine it? So many of us on the same night, under the same full moon, calling our ancestors home at the same time. Our voices and our ashe join in one grand sound. Even though we're speaking different names, it's one grand sound, one power vibration. This is not a small thing, my friends. This is force. Of course, it's free. Come as you are. And because I want you to have more than one night, I want you to have a home for this. Listen, anyone who comes to the full moon heart dedication will have a free 7-day trial of the temple for in-depth AKH teachings, AKH Ascension teachings, community rituals, our bi-monthly community discussion. I also offer a complimentary monthly tarot card reading with me, right? It is where this practice becomes life in community, right? And the ongoing home of this very ritual is what we call the calling name circle. And we gather to do this as often as membership would like. I don't force anything on people. I just ask. So I'm showing right now the full moon dedication. It will be on YouTube. And I will lead it and cleanse the space before we call any names. I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. I'm so excited, my friends. And I'm not going to go through any more advertisements right now. I think that's enough. Visit power-profit.com and see what's going on. Next week, we move into the next body of light. So check out the community page at Power-Profit so you can see where we're going next week. And you want to walk with me, please subscribe on YouTube, hit notifications so you can be aware of what's happening, what's being uploaded, because I don't only do live streams on on YouTube, I also upload videos. Okay. And so let me leave you with this. They tried to erase your ancestors and they failed. And now you know how to prove it, my friends. Okay. Not with argument, but with candle, a cup of water, a name spoken out loud in your own voice, a name spoken out loud in community. You are not one, you never were. Go and set the table. Call your people home. If you want more information on how to do this work, email me. My email is in my profiles, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Email me for more information and insight, and I will definitely respond to you. And I will see you next week, but I will definitely, hopefully, see you on the full moon when we call them all together. Until then, make a note for yourself for the full moon ritual at 11 o'clock on the 29th. I will be sending around reminders about this. And you also need to prepare using the Ka guide. Get the Ka guide and prepare. Okay. And until then, my friends, walk like someone is walking with you because they are. My friends, thank you so much. Ashe, and so it is. Let it be so. Thank you. I'm Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at, and I'm saying